Hello, everyone. This is another Freedom to Feel conversation, and my guest today is Alisa Parry. So, Alisa is a certified trauma recovery coach, the author of The Journey to You, a daily journal of self inquiry and self care. So, this is my brief introduction of you, and I'm not so good at it, as everybody knows. So, I'll be asking you in your own words who you are. But before that, I want to make a comment about your book. Something that you said about the book. That just caught my attention immediately. You said, I invite you to take this journey, the most worthwhile journey of all, the journey to you. That really kind of touched me because I think that's the only journey there is, really, the journey back to ourselves, isn't it, Alisa?
Yes, yes, that's completely exactly what I think. It is the most important journey of all, and it reconnects us to ourselves, and we need to be reconnected to ourselves in order to connect to others and to connect spiritually as well. So it's all, yeah, it's the starting point. It really is.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Gosh, I had to say that before anything else. So, but I want to ask you this open question about who you are. How do you define yourself as of now, as of today?
Uh, as someone who just discovered self-compassion
Yeah,
very recently, and it's hard not to get teary when I talk
yeah,
about it, but it was not something that was modeled to me as a child. Experiencing trauma can bring us to that space too, where it's hard to find that self-compassion.
right.
We're trying so hard to protect ourselves. We're trying so many different ways to survive. But self-compassion seems to go by the wayside, or we don't know how to provide that to ourselves. So I would say that is my new thing.
Yeah, self-compassion. Ah, that's a big one. And it's a big concept, isn't it? That I love kind of unpacking all these concepts. That it feels, I'm very devotional and I'm very attracted to anything that sounds beautiful, that sounds profound. But then for so many of us, it's something that gets to be abstract, that they don't really understand what it is. So I love kind of keep asking questions, about how do we get to this point, and what does it feel like, what is like to practice and to feel self-compassion. But before that question, I have to ask you another one. The platform is called the Freedom to Feel. There's a reason why I have this name there, because it was um, my own journey into freedom. What is freedom? What does it feel like? What is like, again, another beautiful concept. So what would you say freedom is? What is your idea, understanding of freedom? In a sense of felt understanding of experience of what that is.
Of freedom. Oh, yes, and I love the theme, freedom to feel. I mean,
Yeah.
that really resonated with me as well. It is the freedom to explore your thoughts and your emotions, all of it, to explore yourself and not feel like you need to follow a set of rules or, do what everyone else is doing. It's finding your very own unique path, and I feel
Yeah.
like that is freedom. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So finding your own path to self-discovery, to happiness, to peace. What would you say? How would you complete that, Alisa, for freedom?
Oh, for freedom. Yes, the path to peace. I do think that really is what we are all seeking. A feeling of belonging. That's also something that's just very important, and I think that applies to a feeling belonging with ourselves, and
Yeah.
others, and just our place in the universe. It just encompasses all of that all at once. So freedom is that, and our search for freedom. I mean, there's so much beauty to be found along the way. There really is.
That's true. And I love that you connected to peace. It's something that it speaks to me personally and universally, the idea of finding peace within ourselves and then within the external world. How do we kind of relate to everything in a peaceful way?
Definitely.
It's not that easy when we see what's happening, especially now, the wars and all that. How do we relate to that in a peaceful way? How do we find freedom within chaos and confinement? That's a different podcast interview, I guess.
Oh, I like that topic. Very good. I believe that we are. we're living in the world of chaos, and
Yeah.
there is chaos around us. So finding that inner peace is how we must find that first in order to be able to cultivate it in the world around us. So yeah, that's a very wide topic. It's a wonderful topic.
Yes, right. That's one that I have heard for so many people here. And I recently got an email from one of my guests. He was asking me to pray for world peace because he received a message. He's religious, and he received a message from the Catholic Church that this could become a world war and all that. He needed everyone to be praying at a certain time for world peace. And I couldn't help myself but answered him that exactly what you said. If we would want to see peace out there, we need to end conflict here. We need to find peace within. That's not that's a tall order in itself. So how can we expect to make the world a better place when our space it's not the best that can be
Right.
at every moment, right, Elisa?
I absolutely agree because when we have that peace within ourselves, we can't help but share it with those around us. And and you think, well, imagine if everyone did that. I mean,
Mm,
things would change, and we may always have war and politics and all of that, and we're that's just the kind of the human condition. So it's just about doing the very best we can within ourselves. That's what I do. Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly what I believe with all my heart, right? That's it's the world peace is actually it's a very much a personal one. If we all change, then the world changes, right?
Yes, exactly.
Exactly what you said.
Exactly.
So another, let me get my my notes. I do have the topic for today is healing our trauma through reconnecting with our authentic self. So the true self, the authentic self, always goes back to that a beautiful idea to concept that for some of us is also abstract. So talk to me about the authentic self. What is that like? What does it feel like to be authentic, to be in touch with that true self?
To find yourself.
Yeah.
It's also, I will say that it's the pathway to finding love for yourself.
Mm,
And it's not something that comes easy to someone who has experienced injury to their self.
right.
And through trauma or ongoing trauma, as in the case of abuse, it leaves our body in certain states. It brings things into our mind. We become very. It's what's called the inner critic, about that self-talk, the negative self-talk. That's also something that it's a good place to start. Just like, what are you saying to yourself
Yeah.
that you would never say to someone you cared for? Um,
True.
so we get separated. Trauma separates us from our true self. It's a matter of survival. It's what it is. So we cannot blame ourselves for that separation, but we can. There are ways to work to reconnect to that. So finding your authentic self is healing that, and
Yeah.
it's about reconnection.
It's in a way it's unlearning, isn't it, Elisa? A lot of this work of healing.
Oh yes, unlearning and learning. Yes, yeah,
Learning and learning, right? Both.
both definitely.
Another question that I had for you, I mean, let me see if it comes to mind now in a I read something in your bio that caught my attention. You said, as a survivor of verbal, emotional, and spiritual abuse, Alisa has her own personal experience of how the after effects of trauma can prevent us from living lives of joy and fulfillment. So I would love to hear if you could, if you could talk to me about your trauma story and the recovery experience, just the backstory of who you have become today. I assume that this is why you do what you do.
Oh, yes, definitely. It's my history growing up. I think it began in childhood, and I know some people hesitate talking about their trauma because
Yeah, yeah,
it's like, I don't want to blame anyone. I don't want to point fingers. With verbal and emotional abuse and spiritual abuse that I experienced, I don't feel like it was immediately apparent. But it's abuse is abuse, and my experience growing up in a very conservative, strict, religious household, that's where some of the spiritual abuse came in there. and of course by well-meaning parents. And I think that's part of learning our trauma, is saying it's not about pointing fingers. A lot of it's generational, and a
Yeah,
lot of it,
true.
we it has come down to us, and it's come in different forms. But so yeah, that's part of the understanding about your own experience, that we can kind of look at that angle too. So my experience was about having to also growing up in a multicultural home,
Uh-huh.
with a mother that was not from the country that I grew up in, and so that brought in a lot of other factors. There was a lot of conflict about that. That was sort of an underlying conflict. Communication was difficult in my house, and so growing up with all that, and then you can leave your trauma situation behind, but the after effects are what they can point you in certain directions in your life, that you may
True.
not want to go. But it is about survival, and the after effects, we have to do to survive, and that's something we learn self compassion for. But yes, so that was my journey. It took
Wow.
many years. I didn't get to the point where a light bulb came into my head and said, wait a minute, this is not working. Doing harm to my own self was not working anymore. Yeah.
Wow. And I was about to ask that question about recognizing. How do we learn to recognize when we are hurting ourselves, when we are living from a place of trauma? And
Mhm.
then you just said would you say that this is actually the basic way that we can recognize this kind of dynamic of trauma, hurting ourselves, sabotaging ourselves?
Yes, because it's something that we're not conscious of.
Yeah.
It's our body's reaction, it's our brain's reaction. There's an alarm system that gets triggered in an event
Yeah.
that will create a traumatic experience. Our nervous system is also something that's affected, and our experiences are imprinted there. So there's times you're like, "Why am I nervous?" That type of feeling,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and
Tell
it's
me about it.
and
Yes.
you're like, and it's in relationships too. You're like, "Everything's fine. What's the matter?" And it's like going inside and going and investigating how it feels, where in your body, and then also from your mind, and investigating those thoughts.
So it always goes back to us, right, Lisa? The self-discovery, self-investigation, self-exploration, and having the courage to do that. It's not easy, right?
No, no, it's not easy. Yeah, and it's something, you can do in small steps. It's something that definitely doesn't come easy to those it's just you feel like it's become part of you. That's how I felt.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
this is just my personality. And I take personality tests and sort of justify it. And I think, oh no, I'm hurting inside. So all of my work comes from a place of just emotional pain, having
Yeah,
went through the emotional pain, however I got there. And I'm like, you just start to think, you like, I don't want others to feel that pain. And
right.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, that's mostly my motivation for opening up all of this.
Yes, it's beautiful though. Yeah, it's truly beautiful. I was just mentioning off record how well you write about your own understanding of pain, of this kind of pain, especially surviving verbal, emotional, and spiritual abuse. Spiritual abuse, that caught my attention too, because this is very close to my heart, spirituality. And I have my own definition, of course, but I'll ask you, how do you define spirituality these days? What is your idea?
Um, it's I love how you just added "these days," the words "these days."
Yeah. Yes.
This question 5 years or even a year ago, I would have answered you differently.
Yeah.
I now believe it to be, your spirituality is that connection to yourself, and that is part of it, and it's just the connection to yourself, those around you, and to the universe. It's all part of that, and your spirituality is, about your soul, and, I'm a firm believer that abuse of any kind at all, is an injury to our soul, and that
Yeah.
is any kind at all. And because it affects how we feel about ourselves and how we see ourselves.
Right. That's so true. Yeah, that's interesting, the idea. I talked to a lot of people, and kind of connect spirituality, they define exactly as you do. Most of them, there's, that's personal, that we define what that is. And going back to the heart, or going back to, let's say, treating ourselves kindly. For some reason, it kind of, my idea of spirituality has changed in a sense of, it became now more universal. It used to be personal, was my own, journey through healing, the self-acceptance, the self-love, and all that. But now it became more impersonal and more universal, as I call it. It's almost like showing me options, possibilities, choices that can help myself and others, that can benefit everyone. It's no longer engaging in anything that's just beneficial to this body, mind. It doesn't resonate. It really doesn't resonate true to me anymore. So that's my spirituality. And it sounds very simple.
That's beautiful, actually. I do understand that. It's who you are to be able to offer that to
Yes.
to a collective experience and to a collective
Yes.
beauty, a collective love. And yes, I love that, Valeria. That is a beautiful definition.
Yeah, it really it happened this way. Even with this platform, I have lots of platform. I do a lot of things today, and I have a team, so we all work together. And when I ask for contribution, I mean, everybody gets a part of that. Everybody becomes happy. All my team, and my family too. I have a family, and then I have my guests. I get to share their messages, and then people who come across their messages, and then, I mean, that's what matters to me these days. I mean, to this body mind. I try not to say me, because there is, of course, identity here, but it's kind of the universal part. It's so much more, let's say, uh, expensive. It's not confined to just any identity. It's so incredible.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah.
Gosh, I would go on and on with the
Oh, I
spiritual
know,
thing,
I love that. I love
right?
it. It's so
Um,
true.
Let me go back to, actually, I haven't. Yeah, let me ask you this question about healing, Alisa. How do you see healing these days again? Because it's always changing. Is there such a thing as being healed, in a sense of coming to that destination of being completely healed, and now we have not even a residue of anything that had happened to us, not even a memory? Or this is something that's always here in a way, but we know how to, let's say, go back home, go back to the true self? How do you see that dance of healing?
I see it, as, I guess, the journey, and that's probably why I use that phrase quite a bit, because it's a
Yes.
journey.
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
it dawned on me recently too that, maybe we need that journey, maybe the search, maybe reaching out is the act itself is part of our condition, our experience. And,
Huh.
yeah, just reaching out for love from the universe or the collective or the higher power or from others around us, and I feel like we're just built that way, and I feel like that's what we need. So healing is about the journey, and it's about the people you meet along the way, and also, becoming a healer, because you do become a healer as you, progress in your journey, and you bring others with you, and you can kind of guide them. So I just love the metaphor for the journey. I'm all about that.
Let's see. Let me go back to my notes. You wrote a blog post titled "Believing the Truth." That's an interesting post, though. You talk
Mhm.
about something that most of us fall trap to, let's say, but innocently, right, Narisa? There's not something. It's not our fault that we believe what
No.
other people say and the way we are programmed, and especially coming from trauma, we are traumatized. We didn't choose to be traumatized.
Right.
So you talk about, you say it's important to recognize that beliefs coming from the outside of yourself. And then you said, once we recognize that and we find that they are no longer working for us, the ones that are coming from the outside, we can replace them with new truth for us to believe. So I guess the first question is, how do we know um, the difference? It's not easy to tell, especially when we come from trauma. In my case, I could not trust myself. I could not trust my decisions. The way I perceived myself in the world was just not a good one. So, is this something that we do after we have done some healing so we have more clarity, or we can anyone can start actually from this point of recognizing truth, the ones that are coming from us or the outside world?
Yeah, that's a great question. I believe it's actually you work both angles at the same time. Just empowering yourself with self-compassion will allow you to start turning those truths into your truth, and to
Yeah.
no longer believe, the things that you've been told. And sometimes it's things that we tell ourselves in order to survive our experience. And so it's kind of it's using both, and that's where we find the empowerment to say, you know what, I do deserve good things. Everyone deserves it. It's not about
Mm,
and I am
mm,
worthy. And part of it, you do have to convince yourself that, and part of that, you just keep bringing it on. It's an unconditional love. I think you've touched on that before
yeah.
too, and some of your yeah, and some of your writing and topics, and it's that's necessary. That part is necessary. So we have to cultivate it however we can.
Yeah, so true. So, talk to me about you give three examples. The belief one, I'm not enough, and then you have belief two, there is something defective about me, and belief three, this pain will never go away. I mean, this is a very profound ones that we can all, in a way, I think we all can relate to them
I think.
somehow at some point in our lives. So, talk to me about the antidote to them. How do we get to believe the opposite?
Oh, to believe the opposite. Just by it's kind of interesting, like to say that just to believe by believing. And
Yeah.
that's sort of what if you want to use the word faith, when you have faith in
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
you just tell yourself, this is the truth. And it's not about just positivity, because I felt like, self-affirmation is wonderful, but sometimes they don't work. And in the heat of the moment, and our
True.
they don't quite do it. So, the antidote to that is through self-compassion, through not just telling yourself those messages are true and reminding yourself, but reminding yourself in very visceral ways and physical ways, and just and a lot about allowing yourself to feel and allowing yourself to have those feelings, explore them, sit with them for a little bit in a safe area, create
Yeah,
space for yourself, and then
yeah,
explore that. So I think that's all part of the healing, and healing your relationship with yourself. And that's another one of the topics I talk about too.
yeah. That's to me, that's the fundamental one, isn't it?
It is.
Returning to ourselves, to our own truth. You mentioned that you said something about mindfulness that caught my attention too. Speaking of listening, you said practicing self inquiry is a highly effective form of mindfulness as it opens us up to listening to our own internal dialogue. So that mindfulness, the meditation. So I think about meditation as well, just listening. So talk to me about that. Why do some of us resist this idea of listening to ourselves, and more often than not just go for the outside world for answers? Google. it's
Right.
a, it's
Right.
I go to Google sometimes, but not for those answers, not to find those answers. Yeah. So talk
Yeah.
to me about that, Alisa.
It's those messages that we hear, and it's not like voices in our head, but it does actually feels like it's part of our consciousness and our bodies too.
Yeah.
It's those messages that we hear, that we need to tune in. So there's listening to ourselves. I always say that, and then there's hearing ourselves. Hearing and
Yeah.
listening is very different.
Yeah.
Hearing is pausing, trying to find compassion and understand, and hearing is about tuning in to ourselves, and that's just such an integral part of healing your relationship with yourself, is to listen, and that's those are the times we feel safe with other people, is when they're listening, they're tuned to us. So let's we can sometimes we need to start by doing that first before we can feel safe with ourselves, so we can feel safe with others.
Yeah. So everything starts there,
It
right?
does.
Feeling
It
safe. Yeah. Feeling safe with our own selves. I mean, that's just to me a very simple. It sounds very simple to do that, but I have become aware that some people are not ready for it. Some people have had, I think, complex trauma. They
Mhm.
can't really stop and listen to their own thoughts. They're just too traumatizing. They're just
Right.
too negative and dark. They can't do it. So I guess it's a beautiful healing method or practice for some of us, but not all of us, because we're all different, right, Lisa?
Right, and I feel like, Valeria, that I'm an expert at that because I fought that for
Yeah.
most of
See?
my life. You could not convince me that anything was other than those 3 things, about not being worthy
Yeah.
and not, being, able to, overcome, those types of messages, and that's what I lived for so long, and so this was my, I guess you could call, an awakening to where I said, "Okay, wait a minute, I need myself, and we have
Mm,
ourselves, we need to keep
mm.
ourselves intact because we are our greatest resource." Yeah, and it's possible. So it does take some time. I That's sort of why I developed the journal, and that what journal was, we'll probably get to that. You might ask me about that,
Yeah.
but I'm jumping in a little bit. But yeah, that's how I that is how I started my journey, to really get to know myself. So yeah.
I'm glad you said that, because you see, like I said off record, we need them. It kind of puts us in a very calm kind of state when we see other people kind of sharing what they went through, and not really without any reservation, kind of being open to life, to their own journey without any reservations. That shows kind of courage and encourages us to do
Mhm.
the same, or at least to feel safe around them and calm. So, oh my God, I used to be extremely shy, and I'm still in. I don't know why, but then when it comes to this type of interactions with other human beings about anything that's explores the depth, of our understanding of life, of ourselves, of the purpose of this, of the reason of being here in the first place. It's
Mhm.
just kind of everything goes away. I even forget who I am. I don't even. It doesn't really matter anymore. Isn't it interesting?
I agree. I agree. Yeah. And these types of discussions, and, you find yourself there, and it's almost like you have a special meeting room. I don't know how
Yeah.
to explain it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a real
Yes.
little
Yes.
meeting room, and it's how the more you do that with the more people that you can feel safe with, oh, your world just expands. That group, it gets bigger and bigger. That's the wonderful thing, and yes, a lot of people have suffered trauma, and there's nothing, it just pervades just a society, it really does, and for generations, and
Yeah.
the thing is we're starting to talk about it now. I don't feel like we talked about it when I was, a young adult
Yeah.
or when I was a child, and that never came
Yeah.
up, and,
Yeah.
we're starting to talk about it, and we're starting to realize, that we have a shared experience, and, we can share the healing too.
Yes. Right. Why not? Right. We can share everything.
Yeah,
uh,
the good things, yes.
Right? Yes. Yeah. Let's talk about your journal. I do have a question here about exactly about that. I know we don't want to disclose everything about your journal. Yes. So the journal is titled The Journey to You, a daily journal of self inquiry and self care. That is available only on your website. Right, Lisa? I just want to make sure.
Also on blurb.com
Oh,
also,
okay.
yeah, yeah, it's also there, and, it was just a quick, way to get those questions out, and, I not wanting to share them comes from the fact that they are, the same questions that you will
Yes.
journey through and use, and, I have just my own reasons why I did that, um, but and yeah, and in the future, I'd like to expand it some more as well, but it was a very good place to begin for me.
Yeah, you see, this is something about exploration, investigation of self. It's such a beautiful thing. I mean, for me, it was like incredible when I found out that I could do that. I could write about it. I mean, I had no idea about the possibility of writing, and then there just came to me all of a sudden by being open to insights, and then the possibilities just came up. So journal, it's just journaling, it's just a powerful practice. I know personally, and I know from talking to so many people, professionals and people who have healed themselves by
Mm,
writing.
yeah.
So, but what was did you set an intention when you published that journal, the journey to you?
Publishing it was because I had a few people ask me about it, and just a few people that I've spoken to, and someone that I was coaching said, what are those questions you said you answer all the time?"
Yeah.
I said, "Oh no, I have to copy and paste an email to share it." So I thought, let's get this out in printed form.
Yeah.
Um, and then once you have the questions, I feel like you can go anywhere with them. But for me, it was about a daily practice. And there's something about when we form a daily habit of listening to ourselves. I mean, that's when we do something daily, it adds up, and listening to ourselves will add up. And yeah, finding ourselves. Yeah. Mhm.
So no, you call it actually listening to yourself, not just well the practice of mindfulness, it does that, but then journaling, it seems to kind of create this a visual reality for our thoughts, doesn't it? It's so powerful to see what the dynamics, the movements of the mental content. I don't do it anymore. I wonder if this is something that it's a practice for life or it's just for a period of time. Alisa, would you recommend it actually for everyone, every day, all the time?
For my questions, I still do them daily, and even
Yeah.
if I don't have time to do them, because you can't, you wanna do something, you wanna form habits, and you wanna do something daily, but you don't wanna be hard on yourself if you miss it. So I'll just if I'm in a big hurry, I'll do them, just on in my mind, and there's something about writing them down. I'm a big pen and paper person, but, we could type all day, and this is too, but, there's something about that, and, it is mindfulness because, we're putting our thoughts down on paper, where we might not, be able to put them down or to get them out any other way sometimes, whether we're writers or not,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and there's no judgment there, um, and that's where we can start practicing not judging ourselves, and so, yeah, that's what I love about journaling.
Oh my God, because it's being open to you. It's This is non-judgmental space, safe space, isn't it? That's what we need.
It is.
Yeah, I love the idea. I know that has been this is another powerful concept in which I don't it's so sacred to me that I don't see as a concept anymore.
Mm,
To feel safe in somebody else's presence. It's just to me that's everything. That's I mean, it's not just healing, but this is to me it's divine. I have to use that. It's
mm,
something that is beyond even it transcends human connection once you really feel safe in the presence of others. It's almost like connecting with that which you call the true self, connecting within yourself and then recognizing that in the other. And then it seems like they
right.
both meet and they are one. They are not different actually. It's just the same space. It feels that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I love that, Valeria, that you just said that it's become part of you now to where you
Yeah.
don't see, this other self, out here, that it's actually you've integrated it so well into your life, and, yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah, you can recognize it in others.
Mhm.
But I have to say it's still a working in progress because the mind still comes in. It's interesting, from time to time, the residues of trauma per se, or the judgment, or whatever it is that blocks, the perfume of the true self. Of course, I can recognize that in everyone and everything, not just. Of course, we humans can reflect that in a way that other humans can connect to it in a through the human experience. But I can sense that everywhere in a sense of nature. It's just incredible. Animals, it's everywhere.
It
But
is.
there's something about not being done, right? It's a constant interesting practice of clarity. It's almost like cleaning the mirror. We
Oh,
can
yeah,
only see it clearly if we keep cleaning, polishing the mirror.
exactly, exactly. And, we may look back a year ago and say, "Wow, I felt really good then." But then you think you wake up one morning like, "I feel so much better." So imagine
Yes.
how much how
Yeah.
much more there is for us to be able to experience, how much more healing there is ahead of us, and maybe the turmoil in our lives will be more we can navigate that a little bit easier each time. So yeah, we're always learning, I love that I'm not the person I was a year ago or even a day
Ah,
ago. I love that. So yeah, the journey is wonderful. I know it doesn't always feel like it.
yes, but it's very much worth it too, right,
Right.
Alisa? Yes, so worth it. So I want to mention there's the other blog posts that you have written that I made notes here. And one was about true story. That's the title of one of the blog posts that you have written. So let's talk about that. I will paraphrase you here. You said something interesting about it. You said, trauma is often the author of our self limiting stories. That's paraphrasing you from what I understood.
Mhm.
And you said something else about trauma. Um, yeah, you said it is important to have an understanding of what trauma is and how your brain and body responds to it. So I guess that's a good time to talk about that. How trauma happens, and not even why it happens. I know it's different for all of us. Something that can traumatize me might not traumatize somebody else because we're all different. But what is trauma really in its essence? What's the nature of trauma?
Trauma is when our body or when we experience something and it's our body's reaction to it. Our brain has the ability to put us into survival mode. We've heard of fight, flight, and there's also freeze. These are different modes and states that our body puts us in order to survive whatever it is that we're experiencing. Trauma it becomes traumatic for us when that response continues, even when the danger has passed. So our nervous system is still triggered by certain things, certain thoughts are triggered, and it's all interconnected. And it can just it can determine we make it. It can determine how we feel. It can bring illnesses as well. When that trauma is
Right.
in our body and
Mm, mm,
for so many different ways. So it's trauma is about our body's response to the injury, to what had happened or the abuse, and it continues on. So and recovering from trauma is about finding that space and practices that will help you heal. Um, there's different ways of doing it, and different ways work for different people.
right.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's so true. A question that I think I asked you before: is that possible to be experience trauma and not actually recognize it as a trauma, have the symptoms, of course, but in a way, can the body or the brain repress yeah, the repression of the let's say the impact of the experience where we don't even know after how we got traumatized or how we have been responding to certain situations.
Yes, yes, it is possible. And I don't know if you've heard much about developmental trauma. So the
Yes.
trauma that occurs, even before you're able to form words, as a child. And so much is based on, those first few years of life. And that's how you learn your caregivers are what shows you how to relate to the world and
Right.
who you are. They're the first person to tell you who you are, even if they're not
Yeah.
saying in
Yeah.
words. So yes, that has its lasting effects too. So it can, yeah, trauma comes in many different forms, um, and its effects it can affect you in ways that will surprise you. You won't know where they came from. So yeah, yeah, it definitely does.
Right. It's really made sense to me. I mean, it makes a lot of sense the way you explained that in what I have heard and have read about it. So in a way, the human experience itself, it's traumatizing, isn't it? It's almost like it comes with this experience of being separate somehow from our parents, from the mother, and then I mean, from my understanding, spiritual understanding, being separate from divine energy, from God, from whatever we want to call that place that felt perfectly safe and limitless and infinite.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I know that is not a very helpful thing for me to say, but yeah, I mean, it is. We do experience a lot of it. There's a lot of there's theories just writing about there too about how we as humans, trauma affects us a little differently, just in the way we're not able to handle it in the same fashion that animals might.
Yeah, right.
Methods of recovering from trauma. If you've ever tried to rescue a baby bird or, if you know, uh, yeah, so there's a whole thought into
Mm.
that, but yeah, as humans, we unfortunately do experience a great deal of trauma, or exposed to a great deal of trauma in our lives very often.
Yes, I
Yeah.
don't think anyone can say that they have not experienced, right, suffering or a kind of trauma,
True.
fundamental traumas. That's why healing is so important. And to me, I can't separate healing and spirituality. I always connect them.
Oh,
I want to mention another blog post that you have written. It's titled, What Exactly is Self-Kindness? And then you raised lots of beautiful questions: what self-kindness is and why is it important, why it's so difficult, and how do we start practicing self-kindness. So I would love for you to answer some of these questions, of your own questions, actually, beautiful questions.
oh, yeah. I think self-care has gotten popular lately. I feel like in the last 5 years, people are starting to say, and I was thought, "Oh, that's true." For someone who never did any of that, I would limit self-care, it's like the bubble bath or,
Yes,
"Oh, I think
yeah,
I'll grab
yeah,
myself a nice coffee today," or something, and those are all wonderful ways of treating yourself. But then I started to investigate more. I'm like, "Okay, come on, what goes even deeper?" And it was about self-compassion and
mm,
in the form of self-kindness because, I think that's what I try to do a lot of times. I'm like, I wanna take these big concepts and make them work into my life, in very real, easy, simple ways if I can. Um, but for self-kindness to be, it's that whole, presence for yourself, in everything you do. So many of our thoughts throughout the day, you're like, "Oh, why did I do that?" And,
right.
you're like, "Oh, this again," and you're just frustrated with yourself or, "I didn't get enough sleep," and, we get so hard on ourselves.
Yeah, true.
And that not to interfere with wanting to achieve and being
Yeah,
motivated, but, it's like, well, let's make sure our heart's okay with all this too. So, yeah, there's a lot to do with self-kindness. I feel like it's a huge, huge topic.
yes,
Mhm.
yeah, it is. It
Yeah.
is. And one of the questions that caught my attention was, why is it so difficult? It feels like, it sounds like common sense to just kind of treat ourselves
Mhm.
with kindness, but it doesn't come naturally. I wish it did, right, Alisa? For all of us, would be
Yeah.
a natural thing to do.
Yeah, it doesn't always come naturally if you've, experienced, something that's giving you those messages that, it's not yours for the taking, it's not something.
Right.
So, yeah, that it's not for you to have, and you can't be selfish, all these messages, and, you're like, "Oh, no," it's if and we've learned now, it's like, if we don't take care of ourselves, we won't have anything left to give.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's true. It's not something that not everyone experiences that, right?
no,
At least I'm sure some people. I'm just like I'm hoping that some of us are really good, actually, naturally
yeah,
loving ourselves since we're little. I think that you just mentioned developmental um, psychology. That to me has a lot to do with parenting and unconditional love, just being accepted and loved by our parents. I think if children are accepted and loved by their parents, I don't think they would have a lot. I don't think they would need a lot of healing. I'm sure they would, but not as much as some of us do.
oh, yeah, yeah, I believe that's true, and I think I just read recently too, it's those first 2 years of life that you get free unconditional love, there's
Uh,
no, and getting it in that period of time is so important. So if you didn't, then yes, there's never going to be another opportunity in your life that you might feel that or get the opportunity to get unconditional love. Because as much as we love to think it's true, we're all human and it's hard to do. So, um, yeah, I don't know if there's perfect parents out there, but I don't know. That I don't know.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
true. So that starts actually. That's a beautiful, awesome message for parents, isn't it? To
Oh, yeah.
even before they start thinking about having a family, having kids, working on their self-love, self-compassion,
Oh,
self-kindness, doing this work, isn't it? Just to
yes,
pass that on as a legacy.
yes. I wish I would have known that when, before I became a parent, as a young parent, but yeah, yeah.
You know now. It's never
No,
too
yeah,
late, as
that's
we
true.
know.
It's good to know now.
Yes, yeah. Thank you so much for your presence again, Alisa, in this shared reality. We do need more of this, having this conversation openly, especially what about the experiences we have been through as as humans. It's so normal to not feel okay a lot of times. There's a reason for it, but it's important to also recognize that there's something that we can do, that we can go, that we can investigate, we can explore that. We can be open, right, to the adventure of being curious and like, why am I feeling this way? Let me just try to
Right.
find out here why. I love the idea of being open.
Yes.
That
Yeah,
can change everything.
definitely. And we're so worth it. So we have to tell ourselves that, yeah, we are worth slowing down and giving ourselves what we need.
Right. That's another
Sure.
beautiful,
Yeah.
yeah, simple, right, message, but so
Right.
important.
Right.
Yeah.
Simple, but not simple. Yes.
Yeah, right. Simple but not easy. So we are almost at the end. I do have a few more questions for you. I have an ending question, and then of course I'll mention your website in the very end. But before that, is there anything that you left unsaid, Alisa? Anything that you that we didn't explore? I forgot a question I forgot to ask, or a topic that we didn't discuss.
No, I don't think so. No, I don't. And I feel like we opened up some new topics too.
We did.
Like, I'm gonna have to sit down with that one and think about that for a while. So no,
Yeah.
I appreciate the space that you create for this open discussion, the dialogue, and just and promoting that message that that this right here, our souls, is what needs just so much love and yeah, and appreciation too. So yeah, thank you, Valerie. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for being open to this. Yes, I do. It's not a belief system. I do see that clearly in myself. And then I remember clearly not knowing any of this. So I know that I have everything that I need for my own happiness, my own peace. I know it's here. So if I could recognize that, I know that we all of us could.
Right.
I really see that possibility, see as a possibility. So
Yes,
it's a beautiful vision, isn't it, for all
it
of us to
really is.
recognize,
Absolutely.
to realize peace.
Yes.
So my last question is one that I often ask everyone: what three experiences you wish everyone to have before they die, before they lose the body?
Oh, before they die. Um,
Yes.
I think to get to know themselves,
Yeah.
to spend that time with themselves, maybe in the form of a journey, a physical journey too. Go even just going for walks daily on your own.
Yeah.
It's good. Sometimes it's good to spend some time in solitude and get to know yourself. I would say that's one. The next one is to reach out as much as you can, especially in those moments you don't feel like reaching out. Reaching out,
Yeah.
asking for help or asking for what you need. And then I think just being as honest as you can everywhere you go, within
Ah,
reason, safe,
yes.
but approach life with as much honesty and curiosity. I would say honesty and curiosity. Yeah, because we all have so much to offer each other, and we all share so many of the same painful experiences that we can, like you said, we can share the healing as well. So yeah,
Yes, right. We can celebrate the healing, that's for sure. I
right,
love the idea of celebrating those. I mean, healing as a celebration, right? Not just so it can be fun. I think maybe that's what younger people, they need to hear. That healing is fun. It can be fun if we are just open and playful about it.
yeah, absolutely.
So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom too. I love how wise you are.
Thank you.
Timeless wisdom in my heart.
Oh, thank you.
So before we say goodbye, I want to mention the book again is available on your website, and I'll have the link of your website, the book page specifically. So the journey to you. And then I'll have your website there too, alisaparry.com. Are you on social media, Alisa? Are you on Instagram or LinkedIn, Facebook?
Yes, I'm on Instagram and I'm also on LinkedIn, just a little bit there. I've been busy with some writing, so I kind of stepped away for a week or so to finish up another project. But yeah, yeah.
So you're out there as well. So I'll have those links also on the video interview will be on YouTube on my website. So I'll have those links as well.
Okay,
Thank
wonderful.
you so much again for being you, for sharing timeless wisdom, for having the courage to uncover, rediscover yourself and reconnect with that true self, and to share that, share the good news, celebrate healing, as I just said. So thank you so much again, Alisa. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you, Valeria.
And we'll be in touch again. Take good care. Bye for
You too.
now.
Bye-bye.